It's that time of the year again. It's time for both a new Fedora and a new Ubuntu release, both of which with their own fair share of changes. And this time it's important ones, so let's get right into it. GNOME 48 has finally shipped in both the releases. I invite you to read my previous article or watch my previous videos about GNOME 48 to find about all of the changes, and since that video was already recorded and published, things have largely stayed the same. The most important change is that now you get a really healthy performance boost thanks to triple buffering support in Matter, and the new digital well-being functionality is now complete. One thing that changed is that on Fedora 42, GNOME's new Adwaita fonts are finally live and they look stunning. On the other hand, Ubuntu 25.04 keeps the usual canonical branding with the iconic Ubuntu font. The terminal also stays unchanged. Ubuntu still uses the GNOME terminal, while Fedora has moved to the PTYXES, I don't know how to pronounce that, GNOME's new container-friendly terminal based on GTK4 and libadwaita. One of the biggest changes to be seen is that both distros got upped to Linux kernel version 6.14. This version delivers a host of improvement, but honestly the one that I am most excited about is support for Schedule ext, a new kernel feature that allows for people to implement kernel thread schedulers with the eBPF backend. This E9S sorry, no, that's not an acronym, that's a typo. This is a big innovation on the scheduling space that opens for some very interesting opportunities. Being able to use thread-safe schedulers defined at kernel runtime is a big deal for many performance-critical applications such as gaming. NVIDIA engineer Andrea Righi made a very nice talk about it at FOSDEM 2025, so go watch that after you're done with this video, because I found it to be great content. Fedora 42 has been one eventful release. Right off the bat, we got two massive changes. At long last, the old Anaconda installer has been replaced with a newer Anaconda web installer, and the former KDE desktop spin has finally become part of the Cool Kids Club, turning into an official edition. The wallpaper is also beautiful, following the same style as the Fedora 41, which is still to this date my favorite desktop wallpaper in general. Fedora finally got the highly anticipated Anaconda web-based installer. If you have sore memories from Fedora's old installer, fear not, the new one, is much better. The installation process is very streamlined as it takes you from the live disk to a working installation configured with full disk encryption within like seconds. Additionally, the new installer provides much better support for dual booting. If you still have Windows on your laptop and you need to keep it, it is now much less scary and confusing than it used to be to set up a dual boot with Fedora. Another very useful feature is the new installer is the option to make an in-place reinstall of Fedora. Finally, replicating one of the cooler things left about Windows, the installer lets you make a clean reinstallation of your system while keeping all of your files intact. This is super useful. While a well-maintained Linux installation can go on for decades, stuff happens. Package rot is a thing, and the dependency hell can cause leftover packages to be stuck in a limbo every so often. Across several upgrades, unless you're careful to manually remove the older applications, older versions of the apps stay there even if they are superseded, and they might break the user workflow, or perhaps you have installed packages recklessly through years and now your system is a mess and you don't even want to get into the spring cleaning. In short, sometimes it can be nice to just have the opportunity to nuke it all and start over, but retaining your files. Also, updates can get corrupted. It's rare, but it happens, and that's why Fedora updaters tells you to make a backup. The most annoying part, usually, of the big backup, grabbing an external drive, quadruple checking everything important is off the disk, and then copying everything back afterwards if something goes wrong. It doesn't have to be this way though. With this option, you can just reinstall the base system, leaving your files and configuration where they are. In no time, you will have a clean, fresh, minimal installation to build back as you wish. For the longest time, Fedora has been going for being very GNOME-centric. I am unsure how deserved this claim is. Their KDE image has always been one of the best KDE experiences one could get out of the box. Spins, however, in Fedora's hierarchy are considered more secondary options, so it was technically below Workstation, the GNOME build, which used to be considered the de facto default. If you take a look at Fedora's new landing page, however, you will quickly notice that this is not the case anymore. The KDE version is now an official edition, sitting right beside Workstation. On top of a much more polished landing page, the KDE version is no longer a secondary option. It has the same level of priority as the cool kits, Fedora Workstation Server, Internet of Things, Core OS, etc. And this is great news for KDE Plasma fans, or developers like me, as we can probably expect more focus to be put in the KDE version in the future. Immediately, though, even the onboarding experience feels much more Fedora-like. Not having to dig through subpages to find the ISO download link on a much less impressive landing page just makes Fedora KDE feel way more legit. And honestly, it was about time. The days when the KDE Plasma desktop would lag behind GNOME in polish and UX are long past, I think. And nowadays, both desktops deserve equal credit and recognition for how far they have come. So, bravo KDE and Fedora. Just like many others, I too have to use a Windows machine at work. Not me, Luca, who helps me write these things. For now, at least, due to corporate policies. Software development on Windows is notoriously a pain, so I have mostly resorted to doing as much as I can within the confines of Ubuntu Windows subsystem for Linux image. It was okay. It certainly beats the likes of MinGW and MCS2, but I still have some issues with graphical user interface applications. So you can imagine the joy I felt when I read that Fedora 42 can now be installed as a WSL2 distribution. The wsl.exe install Fedora command had already been run from an elevated PowerShell shell on my company laptop, and the Fedora virtual machine set up the way I like it. I was honestly left thoroughly impressed. Like, this is easily the smoothest and best Windows subsystem for Linux experience I have had thus far, especially regarding running graphical interface applications through Windows subsystem for Linux GUI something. This release appears to be shipping the entire GNOME desktop, which is good. My usual companions like Gusty, Kate, and text pieces are finally rendering correctly on Windows, and they work smoothly with a full GPU acceleration. Of course, this is nothing like real Fedora, but if running it is not an option, then this is better than nothing. Before we switch to Ubuntu, though, let me tell you about the sponsor of this video, which is no one, or rather you. In order to do all of this, I have to pay not only hosting fees and taxes, but I also pay for another script writer, Luca, who wrote this script because he's better than me in these kind of things, and also equipment. And sadly, this currently puts us as a loss of roughly $500 a month. So in order to continue making these videos, I need to break even. There's almost 100 people already supporting me amongst various platforms, Patreon, PayPal, LibrePay, Ko-Fi, and more. I'm extremely grateful to all of them, as that's the only reason I'm able to do all of this. Links are in the video description if you want to join. And finally, you can also subscribe on the website thelibre.news. On the same website, by the way, you can read this video as a text article if you prefer reading over watching videos and hearing my terrible pronunciation. You can also subscribe to them if you receive them as newsletters if you prefer, and there's some extra content for subscribers, which is 2 interviews and 1 team meeting. So please help us break even and continue doing videos if you can. Anyhow, I was talking about Ubuntu. This time the slightly more eventful release is the new Ubuntu. So I shall start from that. Traditionally, up to Ubuntu 22.04 LTS, the Ubuntu installation image have bundled the Ubiquiti installer. Ubiquiti has served us fine, but the new installer, based on Flutter, has been here from 24.04 onwards. In this release, the installer gets better support for dual boot configuration alongside Windows and other operating systems. It gains advanced partitioning and encryption options. It now cooperates better with existing Windows installations encrypted with BitLocker. This clears one of the main sticking points of the Ubuntu installer, where dual booting was known to be quite finicky. Ubuntu's new installer has been getting also really good itself. I appreciate the inclusion of the accessibility options immediately and just all the attention to the detail that has been put into it. It also makes it super easy to enroll a computer into the Microsoft Active Directory domain, which should hopefully encourage more companies to integrate Linux in their fleets. Ubuntu 25.05 ships the current toolchains for Python, Golang, Rust, .NET. Yes, it runs on Linux nowadays, and well, that. LLVM, OpenJDK, and GCC, but at this time they went one step forward. A dev pack for Spring. This release contains the idea of dev packs, and all-inclusive packages that leverage the Snap package manager to install an entire development environment in one go. Canonical says that they want to expand to more popular frameworks going forward, but they are starting from Spring Boot, which is, if you didn't know and I didn't, Java's most popular web development framework. Now you know, now I know. Installing it was pretty easy, just read the documentation beforehand, and in just a couple of comments it's trivially easy to get going with Spring development. The first comment installs the toolchain, the second one guides you through an interactive tutorial, and for those of you that are unfamiliar with backend development, this is a handy command line interface version of the Spring Initializer, a handy utility that lets you generate a new Spring Boot project very easily. It lets you pick the language that you want to use, metadata, and more with just a few clicks, and with the dev pack it's just even better. And in just a few seconds, just how I wanted it, a Java 24 Spring project with Maven. Honestly, this is impressive. I have been thinking for quite some while that the hate on Snap is getting a little bit unjustified, just a little bit, since Snaps are able to do some pretty cool stuff. This is very wow. I just hope that this functionality will soon get expanded to like Quarkus framework, my darling and my beloved. It might also be interesting to see fatter dev packs, ones that, as an example, also include a graphical IDE like IntelliJ IDEA CE or Eclipse, and directly run it in the target directory. One day maybe. The news piece is over, so you're released. Go update your systems now if you use Fedora and Ubuntu, because you surely won't regret it. It's wonderful that I'm able to have somebody who understands this kind of stuff and that is able to provide a nice detailed insight into all of this, because if I had to write this, the article would be like, okay, so there's new versions. I've already talked about the GNOME changes and there's some technical stuff which I don't understand, so that's the video. Thankfully we've outgrown that. I've done that in the past. The Fedora 30 something video was that.